What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Jon Jones turned down $30 million for Tom Aspinall fight. Yesterday, we had a really good episode of Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast that featured Ariel Helwani. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. During that show, Logan Paul asked Ariel about the Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall situation. Ariel revealed that Jon Jones turned down a $30 million fight with Aspinall. This is what Ariel had to say.
Do you think Jones has been ducking him?
Yes. I don't like that word because I think it's disrespectful towards him, but I think he didn't want to fight him. And I think it was a calculated decision on his part. Why did you drag this out all the way until June when you knew you weren't going to fight him? He gave the UFC a number. I believe it's in the $30 million range for this fight, which by the way, I think he deserves. Yeah. He didn't think that they would come up with the number, and they did.
Oh, what?
Oh, they did come up with the number, yes. And I believe that Saudi Arabia was involved. The big dogs were involved, right? And he said yes. And then 2 days later, 3 days later, whatever, he said, nah, on second thought, I'm out.
What?
And that's why when he announced his retirement, Dana said, he gave me his word, and then he went back on his word.
Whoa.
I think he was hoping that they would not meet the number, and then he could be like, hey guys, I tried. Because that's what happened with the Francis Ngannou fight in 2020. He threw out a massive number, they said no, and then the fight fizzled. This time they said yes.
Dricus du Plessis sends a message to Khamzat Chimaev. Heading into this weekend's UFC 319 main event, Dricus du Plessis has no intentions of simply surviving the early onslaught of Khamzat Chimaev. Instead, the champ is planning to go out there and be the hunter right from the get-go. As he explained during the latest UFC Embedded episode, I'm not going out there to survive anything. I'm going out there to hunt. I'm a hunter. I'm not a survivor. I'm going out there to flourish from the first second to the last. I'm there to win in the most spectacular fashion possible. While the champ is heading into the fight as the betting underdog, Tom Aspinall thinks that DDP's in for a legendary title run. During a recent interview with UFC on TNT, the heavyweight champ explained that DDP is just a consummate winner. The more I watch DDP, the less I know about him. I will never ever think that DDP is going to lose again. He just finds a way to win. With fight week underway, Chimaev and DDP ran into one another backstage in Chicago, keeping things respectful during an exchange that quickly went viral. Of course, if either of the two main event fighters winds up pulling out, Caio Borralho, who is the official backup fighter, is ready to step in. As he explained to MMA Fighting's Guillaume Cruz this week, they didn't say who could get hurt if it's Khamzat or Dricus, or what the issue was, Borralho told MMA Fighting, but I'm suspicious because they said earlier there would be no backup, and out of nowhere got one. There's something going on potentially, but I don't know what that is. If we go by the logic, Chimaev has the better chance of pulling out because he's done that a few times before. We know he trains like crazy, so he always gets hurt, but I heard recently that he's doing great. He's healthy and has no serious injuries. I don't know how Dricus is doing. He hasn't posted much on social media. The thing that concerns me about Chimaev is regarding his weight. I saw a picture and he looks freaking huge, man. We know he sometimes has a hard time making weight. Let's see, man. I'm keeping my hands up until I leave the hotel for the arena. Until then, I'm 100% locked in on this fight. With just days to go until fight night, hopefully fight week goes off without a hitch. Michael Chandler believes Justin Gaethje is next for Ilia Topuria. In the wake of Ilia Topuria's highlight reel win over Charles Oliveira, there's been no clear indication from the UFC brass regarding who is next in line. During an appearance on the Ariel Helwani show this week, Michael Chandler threw his support behind Justin Gaethje as the #1 contender at lightweight. Additionally, Chandler went on to praise Ilia Topuria, dubbing the champion the best fighter on the planet right now. Ilia Topuria might be the most impressive mixed martial artist on the entire planet right now by far. I love that Topuria is winning titles and dominating people by being brilliant with the basics. A good jab, a hard overhand right followed by a left hook, couple leg kicks here and there, good distance, and most importantly, patience, being comfortable in the octagon and knowing exactly when to throw the punches. Know when to throw the combinations. He's impressive, man. I don't see him losing anytime soon. Although there's been no word yet on when Chandler will be back in action, the fan favorite has made it clear he'd like to fight on the UFC's White House card. Despite Conor McGregor officially re-entering the testing pool, however, Chandler's not confident that the two will actually fight on the White House card. I haven't really processed it much. It's been a lot of the same stuff over the last couple years with the whole Chandler McGregor Tough 31 pull out of the fight for June 29 saga we've had. I don't really think about it a ton. I know I want to fight at the White House. I would love to fight against Conor. That's definitely a platform that would bring Conor. Maybe get Conor on the straight and narrow a little bit to get focused on and get back in the octagon to fight. But it could be anybody. Maybe it's another American. Who knows what it is? If you're a betting man, I still say say I wouldn't bet on it, but definitely bet the house on Chandler fighting on the White House card. So far, no response yet from McGregor, who's made it clear that he plans to return for the White House card.
Hey, is Conor McGregor ever going to fight in the UFC again?
Yeah, I mean, if you see, he's been posting videos of himself training. He's back in the pool now. He wants the White House fight.
Okay. Because I've seen him train, but I've also seen him party a lot recently.
I've seen a lot of photos of him recently.
Yeah, there's been some photos. There's been a lot of things going around, so I didn't know if he was coming back.
Listen, if he starts getting in shape and training and stays the course, that's the fight he wants. He keeps telling me he wants that fight, so.
Khamzat not happy with custom shorts for UFC 319. For this weekend's Chimaev vs. DDP fight, Venom created some unique custom shorts for the #1 contender. Based on the behind-the-scenes video of the #1 contender shared by Adam Zubarev, however, it looks like the UFC's on-site tailors will have to make some adjustments. While trying the shorts on, Chimaev didn't seem too happy with the fit.
Längden är bra, vill du ha det kortare? Den här öppnar mer, som du gjorde sist. Det kan gå mer upp.
Ja, można ci.
You sure?
Does it open the slits?
A little bit, yeah.
Fight fans were quick to weigh in. Tell them to fix that ish if he isn't able to move and fight properly in them, or wear the last ones he wore against Whitaker. Another joked, "Brother, what are these swim shorts, brother?" Plenty of other fans weren't impressed either. They look even worse on him. His aura dropped 50% when he threw those cartoonish shorts on. Another concluded he needs the slits on the side to be longer so he can maneuver better in them. I know that feeling when shorts are tight. He's better off wearing the same shorts he wore versus Whitaker. Fortunately, one fan was able to translate, explaining he wants the slit to be a little longer, and they said we will fix it. Custom shorts won't be the only custom piece of clothing Chimaev's rolling into fight week with. In addition, barber J. Roy Styles gifted Chimaev a custom jacket for the event, as seen in the UFC on TNT video this week. UFC updates. Heading into this weekend's UFC 329, let's take a look at today's UFC fight updates, starting with the last-minute change to the upcoming Road to the UFC 4 show set for August 22nd. According to reports, Nurmagomedov Tumendemberel will now collide with Terence Saturn after the withdrawal of Ray Suruya. Next, we have a new addition to the UFC Vegas 110 card on November 1st. According to AG Fight, Ketlin Vieira will collide with Norma Dumont in a pivotal bantamweight clash that'll see the top 5 bantamweights battle it out for a chance to compete for the title. In other news, ahead of his upcoming fight with Tom Aspinall in Abu Dhabi, Ciryl Gane was seen getting some work in with Olympic wrestler Akhmed Tazhudinov, who took gold in freestyle wrestling at the 2024 Paris Olympics. After having nothing for John Jones on the ground, Gane is now looking to avoid a similar fate against Tom Aspinall. And last but certainly not least, Chris Weidman shut down the rumors of a boxing match with Anderson Silva. Although news of the trilogy fight happening spread like wildfire across the MMA world, the All-American revealed to Mike Bond that the fight is not in the works. No, it's not true. I'm giving you all the news right now. A couple years ago, I got hit up by Anderson Silva's manager about doing a boxing match with him, and it was good money and everything. But I was in the UFC, and I'm like, I can't do that. He was like, okay, let me know when you're done. Additionally, as he explained, his manager did some research and traced the rumor back to a recent wrestling tournament. When I went to a national wrestling tournament in Atlanta with my kids the other weekend, I'm talking to 1 million people taking pictures, and somebody must have asked me, and I must have said this a few times in the last 6 months after I retired, what will you want to do next? I'm like, I'm doing the analyst stuff. I'm doing fighting. I don't think MMA is going to pay me enough money to come back and go through a training camp and getting my head jacked up. I'm trying to save my brain cells, but a boxing match against some big names, some older dudes, and guys like Anderson Silva, Luke Rockhold, Darren Till, guys I've had history with, that would be fun. I'd entertain it for good money. So someone ran with the Anderson Silva thing and just said I said it's set. I didn't say it's set. There's not talks. There's no date set. I was just going to let them run with it because maybe it ends up happening. But no, there's no talks that I know of. Now that Weidman's expressed an interest in a potential fight, it'll be interesting to see if anything happens. Charles Oliveira is not giving up on UFC dreams. Charles Oliveira may have been knocked out cold by Ilia Topuria at UFC 317. However, Dubronx has already signed to fight Rafael Fiziev in Rio de Janeiro on October 11th. While plenty members of the MMA community have expressed concern, suggesting that the former champion take more time off after being knocked out, he revealed to AG Fight that his story is far from over. I've never been knocked out out in my life. Everything in life has a first time. Unfortunately, mine arrived. I was knocked out by a tough guy. I went home sad, crying, angry. But now, truly, I'm more than ready. Listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you. A wounded lion is still a lion. And on October 11th, I'll show you all that my story isn't over. I'm more than alive, more than ready. On the heels of the Oliveira-Fiziev fight announcement, Sean O'Malley stood up for the former champion when one of his friends indicated that he's excited to see Charles get knocked out again during a recent video for Sugar Sean's YouTube channel.
Just another opportunity for Charles to get knocked out.
How could you not like Charles Oliveira? I do not understand it.
I love
As a
watching
fan,
him lose.
I don't get it. Yeah, but just Charles. How do you not like Charles? Like, I get how you don't like Sugar Shane.
With Fiziev looking to build on a win over Ignacio Bahamondes and Oliveira looking to get back in the win column, the stakes couldn't be higher for either fighter. Carlos Prates ready to knock out Geoff Neal. After the first loss of his UFC career, Carlos Prates is eager to get back in the win column this weekend against Geoff Neal. Ahead of the fight, Prates appeared on the Ariel Helwani show this week to discuss the bout, revealing that despite Neal being known for having an iron chin, he's a master at putting people to sleep for the first time. I'm really good at knocking people out who have never been knocked out before. I won the belt off the biggest show in Brazil, and I knocked out the guy. He was southpaw, so I'm really good fighting against southpaws, and he was never knocked out, and I was the first to knock him out. When I fought Li Jingliang, he was never knocked out in his career, not only UFC. I was the first one. Saturday night, I'm going to be the first one to knock Geoff Neal out for the first time in the UFC. Nothing personal against him. It's just because it's the way I like to fight. I'm a striker, and I like to knock people out. I know how to do that. That's my best. On the flip side, as Neal revealed to James Lynch, he's planning for a one-round fight despite the fact that he's preparing for a hard-fought 15 minutes.
Whoever can keep from getting hit is gonna win. Like, it's I really feel like it's gonna be a one-round fight. That's my goal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, granted I'm training for 3 rounds, but I'm really training for a one-round fight. There's no reason why this fight should go past round 1.
George St-Pierre concerned for UFC fighters following new deal. On the heels of the UFC's deal with Paramount, former welterweight kingpin George St-Pierre is worried about fighters. During an interview with Covers, GSP explained that the deal could be good for the UFC as a promotion, but terrible for the fighters because now there are no pay-per-view points to use as leverage. When I was competing, I was able to have a great argument to negotiate on my contract. I could tell the UFC, hey, if you want me to do all the promotion, I want to become a partner. I want a piece of the pie to negotiate a part of the pay-per-view revenue, because if I'm doing all the promotion, I'm helping you, but you need to help me. You need to make me a partner. So it might be a bad thing for the fighters in a way that they have less leverage. That's what I think. I think it's going to take off some leverage for the big names to have an argument to negotiate more money. Veteran reporter Luke Thomas also spoke with a former MMA manager who was able to explain the fighter side of the deal. Thomas then broke down the finer points in a pair of posts on social media. I spoke to a former MMA manager about how they think this new UFC Paramount deal will affect fighter pay. They told me UFC is likely to do what they've done in the past, offer the fighter a bump in pay without sharing how that fits into overall rev share percentages. This manager had clients who had pay-per-view points. They said UFC will proactively seek them out. This happened for some after ESPN deal. It allows the UFC to offer more without changing percentages of what they share. This is also backed up by information from the class action lawsuit. Despite that, Michael Chandler is optimistic that fighters will be taken care of. As he explained to Ariel Helwani, there's a lot more money being happening inside the UFC than the UFC will ever gloat about, than the UFC will ever brag about. That's just the way they like it. A lot of us are doing pretty fine. I think the UFC is a lot more fair than people give them credit for. Whether fighters actually see a pay bump, of course, remains to be seen. Dana White fires back at the MMA community. In yesterday's video, we shared the concerns going on with a subscription model compared to a pay-per-view model. What I love about this business is I can lay out what we think the fights are going to be for a year, and a fight will pop up that I never saw coming. A star will pop up out of nowhere. Anything is possible, and you could do a one-off pay-per-view. I'm going to be on pay-per-view this Saturday. Pay-per-view is not dead. So from the sounds of everything, it looks like the UFC will save their pay-per-view cards only for absolute bangers. But then, that leaves us with the question of what a UFC Paramount card looks like, considering that they don't have any incentive to stack a card. If they ever want to stack a card, it'll just be a pay-per-view. It'll be interesting on how all of this will play out. After that video was posted, some of you guys in the comments also shared your concerns by writing, "Oh my, those Paramount cards are about to be horrible." So in other words, Dana is basically saying, if and when we feel like a card is more lit, best believe we're going to charge big pay-per-view bucks on top of the Paramount subscription. Question is, who decides what a more lit card? Seems like a slippery slope and easy way for the UFC to just charge more money on top of this already insanely lucrative deal. One-off pay-per-view? So I was right on the other post. We will get watered-down fight cards that would normally be fight nights. Well, look how watered down the cards were to meet the ESPN's deal. This will demand more fights than ESPN, so expect BS cards worse than Cage Warrior cards. Great, so basically UFC numbered cards and then 100 plus pay-per-view for half-decent banger cards? After Dana White's Contender Series last night, he held a press conference. Thankfully, we had John Morgan ask Dana White his thoughts on the comments from the MMA community. This is what he had to say.
Do you know what the cards are going to look like? I mean, now that you no longer have to sell a pay-per-view, does that mean you don't necessarily have to stack the numbered events so deep and you spread the roster a little bit?
You know that's not the way I think. That's not the way I think. We're going to go in with to this Paramount deal, guns a-blazing, and no, that's not the way I think. I don't go, oh, let's water the down now. We don't have to, exactly.
So there you have it. Dana's saying that we won't see a decrease in the product, but do you believe him? Let us know in the comments below. We have a favor to ask. Help us reach 200,000 subscribers on MMA Zone by subscribing and turning on notifications for daily MMA content. Seriously, we rarely miss a day.